All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Algebra 2 Skills. I would like you to turn to the packet page number 8. Okay, so this is page 8 in your 0C packet. The top looks like this. It says the day 2 practice. We're just going to do two problems from this set. The first problem is going to be number 6, and then we're going to do number 9 on the back page. Okay, so if you don't have that out yet, I would say pause the video, go get your packet, come back, and be ready to work. Okay, so first things first, we have been given this system, and I see an x squared, an x, and a constant. So this is a quadratic. And then the one below it, you see there's no exponent on the x. So that's what's telling me it's a line. So we have a quadratic and a line, and we have to find out where do these two algebraically intersect. We don't have the use of a graphing calculator or a graphing app like Desmos, so we've got to do this one with hardcore algebra. Okay, so I noticed that this says y equals, and then down here I do not have y equals. So if I had y equals and y equals, I would probably just set the two equations equal to each other. That's not the case. I'm kind of going to just use substitution in a general form today with this one, because if I know this is all equal to y, I'm just going to substitute it right in there. All right. So I'm going to use the space of 5 just to make sure that this video comes out nicely. All right, let's give it a whirl. So negative 12, and then instead of y, I'm just going to add in this entire quadratic here. So 5x squared plus 14x plus 1. And don't forget to continue on with the plus 40x. So plus 40x all equal to 0. And now I'm just going to start combining my like terms. So 5x squared will come first because that's the highest exponent. And then I've got 14x and 40x, so that's 54x. And it says minus 12 plus 1, so that's going to be minus 11, all equal to 0. All right. So I'm thinking, are there any common factors I can take out? Well, that's a 5. That's a 54. So if it was 55, I could simplify those two. And that's minus 11. So because 5 and negative 11 are both prime, there's no simplifying that we can do here. However, we can execute factoring by grouping. So AC is 5 times negative 11, which is negative 55. And here, let me make a little separate spot there. And the B term, the one that we're trying to get it to add to, is 54, and that's positive 54. So we've got to think of two numbers that when multiplied give us negative 55, and when added give us positive 54. So those two numbers are going to be 55 and negative 1. And I'm sorry if I didn't let you pause the video, but yeah, I feel bad. I kind of ruined that surprise. But anyways, you have plenty of time to practice more factoring. So I'm going to make these two numbers represent that middle term now. So I'm going to write 5x squared, and I'm going to write 55x. Chose that since 5 is my coefficient here. And then I wrote my minus 1x minus 11, all equal to 0. So I'm going to factor by grouping. I'm going to group these two. I have 5x, and I'm left with x. And if I divided 55x by 5x, I get positive 11. Over on the other side, negative 1x and negative 11 really don't have anything in common besides a negative 1. So we'll say negative 1, x plus 11, and we're equal to 0. So you notice x plus 11 shows up here and here. So that is one factor because we saw it twice. And then we're going to group 5x and minus 1 to make our other factor. So I set both of these equal to 0. This one is a little easier than the next. Subtract 11. We get x equals negative 11. And then over here, I would set this equal to 0. Starting, we would add 1 to both sides. So we get 5x equals 1. And then I would divide both sides by 5 right here. So that would give me x equals 1/5. Now, for algebraic purposes, I'm going to encourage you to write that as an up and down fraction, not a side to side fraction. That's very nitpicky, but I think it will make for some easier multiplication later. So, all right, so we've got our two x values. That means I know that my solutions are -11 comma something, and I can write it up there, awesome, 1/5 comma something. Right? So I know that those are going to be my two solutions. I have to figure out a way to find those on the y-axis. And as I look at my two equations, I see this has an exponent, a lot of coefficients, 14 is kind of big. I know 40 is big, but there's no quadratic term here. So I'm going to use -12 plus y plus 40x equals 0 and solve for y. So I'm going to use the 1/5 first because I'm feeling crazy. So -12 plus y plus 40, and we're going to multiply that times 1/5. And here's that fraction part, right? Because if you weren't sure how to multiply 40 times 1/5, that's okay. Now that they're written both vertically, you can multiply across, and you'll see that 40 times 1 and 1 times 5 gives you 40 over 5, which will give you 8. So let me just make sure I have everything. -12, y, and 40x. Good. And that's equal to 0. I simplify. I get -12 plus y plus 8 equals 0. And if I combine these two, I'm going to really just get y minus 4 equals 0. So that means y equals 4. And remember, that was for the 1/5. So we've got a 4 right there. Okay. Not too bad. I thought that 1/5 was going to be scarier than it was, but it turns out fractions aren't all that scary. Anywho, going to move on, going to find that other y value. I see -12 plus y plus 40 times x. In this case, it's -11 equal to 0. And we're going to say -12 plus y. And then, let's think. What is 40 times 11? Well, if you're not sure, you can definitely use a calculator. I can tell you that I would probably be doing this by hand, like that. And 1 times 0 gives me 0. 1 times 4, 1. Okay, another 0. So we've got 440. There's definitely an 11 rule we could have used there, but this is going to be minus 440. Right? The smallest little error here could throw the whole solution off. So you really just want to be careful. I would grab a calculator, but I want to show you can do it without using any technology. And I am going to now combine the -12 and the -440, and that means I have y minus 452 equal to 0, and you add that over, you get y equals 452. So 452 goes in there, and those are our solutions. Okay? So again, pause, rewind, whatever you got to do, but I'm going to move right into number 9. And that is right here, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing, kind of do a scan over the problem, get an idea of what I'm working with, and I see an x squared, but now I've got a y squared. So that's kind of strange, and it's equal to 100. If you remember from class, and some of you I think have already done this, and some of you might be doing this in the next few days, but when you see x squared and y squared, we got to remember back from geometry that that is a circle, and the radius happens to be 10 in this one because the square root of 100 is 10. But it's just good to know that this is a circle. And then you look at this one, 3x minus 30, that's a line. So we've got something happening here that's either like this, or like this. Oh, you didn't see that. There we go, right? It could be crossing twice, it could be crossing once, or over here crossing none. So we have all those possibilities here. Let's algebraically figure this out. So as I look here, I see x squared, y squared equals 100. I don't want to try and solve for x or y, especially right here. I see y equals, and there's a tendency of some students to solve this for y. All we're going to say about that right now is that you don't know all the rules of radical world. Radical world has some really weird rules about plus and minus, and when you square and re-square root, there's just a lot going on. So right now we're going to say pause, hold on to solving for y there, and just use another simple substitution of 3x minus 30, and we're going to put it right into that y. So I'm going to rewrite this as x squared plus, and then I've got 3x minus 30 squared equals 100. So I agree we're going to get some pretty big numbers here, but that's okay. We are ready for it. So just a little small reminder, I like to write out a binomial squared like this to remind me that there has to be 4 multiplications every time I do this. So, all right, let's see, x squared plus, and that's going to be 3x times 3x, we get 9x squared. 30 times 3, that's going to be minus 90x. Another 3x times negative 30 gives us minus 90x. And then negative 30 times negative 30. Well, 3 times 3 would have been 9. So we get another 0 and a 0. That's going to be plus 900. And did we get everything? X squared plus y squared equals 100. I'm just going to write equals 100. Okay, so notice I'm really making sure that everything that I was supposed to include, I've included, and then make sure there's nothing else additional in that equation. Okay. All right, let's start solving and consolidating. I'll take away 100 from both sides to get an equal to 0 on this right. I see 9x squared and then another x squared, so that's going to be 10x squared altogether. Almost missed that. And then 90 and 90 make minus 180x. And this is going to be plus 800. And that's all equal to 0. So from here, I do not recommend doing AC 10 times 800. I like to try and simplify this if at all possible. And since we have a 0 on the end of each of our coefficients, I am going to go ahead and multiply this times a tenth and get x squared minus 18x plus 80 equal to 0. That's much better, right? Because we got a coefficient of 1. We don't even need to really execute any major factoring by grouping here. We need to think of two numbers that multiply to 80 and add to negative 18. If you need to see that out, I can write it. Right? And then we need two numbers that are going to multiply to 80 and add to negative 18. And because this sum is negative, that tells me that this product's positive, so that means I need a negative number in both slots there. And I think this is about the easiest combination you can think of, besides maybe 1 and 80. But you've got 10 and you got 8. That makes 80. So we're going to go negative 8 and negative 10. Let's double check. Makes negative 18, multiplies to get 80. We're good to go. I'm going to skip right to our factors because the coefficient was 1. Alert, alert. If this is not 1, you can't just go from here to here. Okay? Just a little reminder there. All right, we've got x equals 8 and x equals 10. So we've got 8 comma something as our solution and 10 comma something as our second solution. All right, I see up here we've got y equals 3x minus 30. So I'm just going to use that for both of these points. Let's test out x equals 8. So y equals 3 times 8 minus 30. That's y equals 24 minus 30. So y equals negative 6. So I go over here, write negative 6. And then y equals 3x minus 30. Going to plug in x equals 10. And I get, let's see, here, y equals 3 times 10 minus 30. Oh boy, that's kind of weird. Y equals 0. Is that okay? Sure, it's totally fine. That just means that if I were to draw this, right, and it is a circle, so let's see, 10 comma 0, one intersection point is right over here, and then 8 comma negative 6 is going to be right around here. So my guess is that this sort of looks like line, And then the radius we said is 10, so I think this circle probably looks a little like this. Kind of like that. Okay? So if we have a Desmos app or browser open, you could definitely plug these two into that equation, and you'd see that the solution looks something like that. Okay? So I know that was kind of a long one, but two really, really helpful examples, I hope. And we will see you in class soon. Okay? Adios.